And again, because there's a couple gals that I can see in the galley, I can't see everybody, but I do have some of my women entrepreneurs. So I'm going to pick on some of you because I know that you're interested in doing speaking. So I see Jody, and Jody, you've got my favorite background there. Hello, it looks like Santorini. So Jody, so let's hear from you for a second. Pop in and tell us why, and are you doing any speaking? You want to do some speaking, and what do you want to get out of today?
Well, today is moving me into your enthusiasm. I am not afraid of public speaking because at 23, I became a junior high school teacher, and I was in front of 36 junior high school students every day, 6 times a day. So I got over being intimidated because they're probably the worst crowd you can face. They never want to do anything you want them to do. So that going to say, I'm much more of like you said, I'm definitely an introvert, ambivert person. And today I want to dial in that story, because I know what you're talking about is the storyline. And I love stories. It's the only reason why I read, is to activate my imagination. So I'm here to learn from the master queen.
The master queen. Thank you. I like it. See, Ron, how I've trained them so well. So I love that. And I've talked to Jody before, and I know that you want to start doing talks, which is different than teaching. Talks to sell yourself, sell your services, and not sales in a negative, icky way. Because I know sometimes people are like, ooh, selling. Letting them know, I know that you have a hypnotherapist background, that you're a mindset coach, that you do so much in the technology world. You've got a lot going on. So here's my first step right here. What we want to do, I'm going to give you a little psychology here, and I want you to take notes. This is interactive. At the end of today, you can have a little mini talk in place. And I want you, when you start out any speaking engagement, I don't care if this is with your team every Monday morning, I want you to start out with questions, and I'll tell you why. Step 1 is about a grabber. I can tell instantly when someone hasn't been trained in speaking because they get right into the meat of the talk. And you would think, well, Heidi, we don't want to waste time. Let's get the meat of it. But guess what? The audience isn't with you. You have to be your own warm-up act. So when you ask questions, it forces the audience to think and to kind of go in their own head. So think of it this way too. Everyone, when you're up there on stage, this is why some of us get nervous, where people are just checking you out. Oh, who's this woman? I wonder how old she is. Is this going to be boring? Is this going to be interesting? You have 6 minutes, which is really a long time, to win over your audience. But what you want to do is ask questions so that it takes the focus off of the presenter and into their head. And you're selling yourself from step 1. Notice what I did. Even though it just sounded typical, I said, let's start with a couple questions. Let's start with a little mini survey. I'd like to find out more about you. How many of you are new speakers? How many of you would like to do more speaking? How many of you are nervous speaking? How many of you are not getting business from speaking? I'm qualifying you as the crowd. Are you with me on that? So some of you right now, some of you that I know and who's ever out there, I want you to jot down some questions. The way to do it, this is for today, don't get creative on me. Let's just play with the template I'm giving you. You start out with how many of you? How many of you had a New Year's goal that you haven't reached yet? How many of you are ready to clear out your closet this spring? How many of you need an attitude adjustment? How many of you live with someone who has addiction issues? I'm thinking of Miss Tammy, I think is on the call. How many of you? Okay, so that's step 1, grab the audience. Ron, does anybody have any how many of you? Or I want to hear from a couple of you. Or you know what, I'm talking out of 2 sides of my mouth like a typical speaker. Rachel Van Dyne, I see you. And we've worked a little bit together before. Give me a couple of how many of you out the gate. Because you've got a juicy topic.
How many of you have been feeling weighed down by everything going on in your lives and in the world around you lately?
That's, okay, let's give Rachel a round of applause. How many of us just felt that? So she starts out as a speaker, and from step one, I'm like, that's me. Who cannot? You're getting applause from Ron. How many of you? It puts the audience in the mindset of your talk, and you're quietly selling. Who else? And Ron, is there anybody else there? Somebody in the chat. Let's hear another how many of you.
Yeah, not seeing in the chat. Since my business is helping other businesses improve their bottom line, I could start out with
Yeah.
a trick question, like how many of you absolutely don't want to make any more profits or keep any more money in your business?
I love that, because you know what, then you play with the audience. Now, another secret, and I spend a lot of time, everything I do on the opening, because it's the first impression. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here. It's the psychology of warming yourself up. When you take the focus off yourself, then the audience has to respond. You're both warming up each other. So for those of you that get nervous, it's wonderful. That was great, Ron. So let's see, I see in my little panel here, Jonah, is it Joanna? Jonah? Can you pop in and tell us what your gig is with speaking? You're interested in speaking. What's your story?
So it's Joanna. Thank you. I get Joanna a lot. Don't worry, it happens all the time.
That's okay.
But I haven't been doing the how many of yous, but I do like an opening question. So like I do webinars on interviewing resumes. So like for my interviewing session, I ask the audience, what have you done to prepare for an interview? And they kind of have this little interactive Padlet kind of thingy that they kind of put those ideas, again, just to get their minds engaged in what the topic is going to be. But I can, think of some how many of you, or how many of you have researched the employer? How many of you have practiced having, practice interview questions? How many of you have tested out your technology beforehand? So all questions and stuff we would go over during the session.
Great. And what you're referring to, which I love, I call it popcorn, that I do a little later. And popcorns have people pop out the answers, right? So when you do that, that's a wonderful way to also interact. However, I encourage, again, this is how I've been trained. Many of you have heard of Dale Carnegie. So this is Dale Carnegie's training. And it's been proven statistically, an audience is going to give you 6 minutes. And in those 6 minutes, there's 4 personality styles, okay? And we want to make sure in those 6 minutes we've addressed all of those. So even before you do the popcorn, which I love, which is interaction, it's kind of the icebreaker, just to get the how many's, get me settled so we're not thinking about our day. What's for lunch today? Oh, I have to pick up the kids, right? We all get busy in our head. So the how many of you is a secret, one of my secret weapons.